Do you want to start adventure riding solo? Well, I have 5 steps to ensure your confidence that will lead you to success. Hey, how's it going? Welcome to my channel. I get asked quite a bit over the years, do I always ride alone? Why do I ride alone? Why don't I ride with others? So in that, some of those questions have also been, how do I do solo adventure travel? And if I had any tips or any thoughts, or if there's something that I could share with those of you out there that may be wanting to start solo adventure riding. So that's really the genesis of this video. Now, to answer a couple of those questions, I typically ride alone, which is probably 95% of the time. Partly because of schedule. I have Wednesday to Tuesdays available, which not many people have that range. And if you're taking a week off, then you're missing a few days. So part of it is scheduling. The other part of it is I ride a lot, and not many people I know ride as much as I do. So there's no way I would be able to find someone to ride that much with. And then the other thing is I have ridden with other people. I enjoy that. But I think my preference is to ride alone. I like being able to ride at a little bit faster pace, not faster as I'm going, but taking less breaks. My stops are usually pretty quick, get gas, grab something and go. So I know that riding with somebody else, trips tend to be much slower. There's more stopping, there's more chit chat. It's not as fast a pace as I like to go. Not that I don't enjoy riding with people, because I do, but predominantly it's all solo. But that got me thinking about the 5 things that I think if you are not doing solo adventure riding right now, and it is something you want to do, if you address these 5 things, it will give you the confidence that you need in order to be successful riding. And those 5 things, and I'll go into more detail, are overcoming fear. I get questions all the time that I can tell that those are coming from a place of fear, and I'll talk about that more. And I think you need to be a good problem solver, and I'll talk about why you need to be a good problem solver. You need to be able to mitigate risk. When you're riding by yourself, maybe the risks that you would take riding with a group, you don't want to take riding by yourself. So I'll go into that with a little bit more detail. And then you really need to be prepared. When you're riding with other people, you might not have a full toolkit. There's just some other things with your bike preparation. So I'll talk about what I think you need to do in order to be prepared to ride. And then the last thing is, I think you really need to be a decisive decision maker. If you are slow at making decisions, or you are not good at making instant decisions and sticking with them, or wavering in your decisions, that can be a problem. So I'll go through some of those things as well. So let's get into the 5 steps to make you successful and confident in going on your maybe first or multiple iterations of adventure solo riding. All right, the first thing that I hear all the time from people is, am I scared to go do this by myself? Am I scared to go ride? And I can tell that that is coming from a place of fear. And I think there's really 3 areas of fear that people have before they go riding. The first one is just human psychology. It is the fear of the unknown, not knowing what to expect. And then we have this doom voice inside of our heads. Everybody has it, and it's just something you have to learn to overcome. And understand that your little doom voice in your head that's telling you, or working out all of these horrible scenarios. What if I drop my bike? That's just human nature. And you have to put that aside and understand that, think about all the other riding that you've done and all those experiences that you've had, and have any of those things that you've doom scenarioed out ever occurred. And realize that that is our brain going to the worst possible place. Where am I going to I think it's a matter of a survival instinct, but it's something you have to overcome. What is that noise I just heard? And the more you do this, the less that voice will be talking to you, or the quieter it gets. When I started doing this more routinely right before a trip, I would be thinking about all of the things that could possibly go wrong. Well, you can think through all those things, but they're not likely to happen, and anything you think about it's probably going to be something else that you weren't prepared for. So quiet that voice and just go. The next fear that I constantly get questions about is wild animals. I don't really worry about the wild animals much. I have camped for over 30 years in the back country, and I have never had an issue that has been serious. I've had mice steal stuff off my bike, my gloves. I've had raccoons get into food that I left out. That was stupid. I knew I wasn't in bear country and I left food out, dumb. And then when I know I'm in places where there's bears, I always put my food away and move it away from my campsite. I mean, whatever works for you, make sure you do that. Never eat food in your tent, never bring food or anything that smells into your tent. Really, bears don't like people. If they've been conditioned to come into campsites, it's usually going to be in a bigger campsite, not in a solo one. So I personally have not had any problems, but I also am very conscious of what I do with my food and where I put it. All right, just a quick interruption in the video because something happened right after I filmed this section the next day, the next morning. I was camping out with a viewer, Dave here, and in the morning around 6 a.m., he got out of his tent about 30 seconds before I did to watch a mountain lion walk within 50 feet of our campsite. Now, again, we still have not, or I have not had any issues with animals. However, if you are out in the wild, know that there is animals that may drift through. Didn't turn out to be an issue, just walked on past. But first time I ever know that a mountain lion had actually walked through, and we got a few pictures of its footprints in the direction that it went. Now, the other thing that people seem to ask a lot of questions about is their fear of others. And in all of the years that I've been camping, 30 plus years, I've never had a problem with anybody at a campsite. Now, granted, there's been campsites I've been at where people have been partying until 2 or 3 in the morning, playing their music incredibly loud and being very inconsiderate to others. But that's not a personal conflict, and I'm not someone who's going to get up and go yell at them. I just don't see the point in that, and the outcome of that, it's just not worth it. To me, if that is someone, if you are like that, you're very confrontational and you're going to go do that, well, then you might have problems with people. But I am not confrontational unless I really, really have to be. I just let those things go, and it's not that big a deal. And I've been to a few campsites where I've looked around and maybe they've been trashed out quite a bit, and I see people that clearly have maybe moved in and are living there. I move on. I don't stay there. I just try to use some common sense and determine whether or not that's a place I want to be. I try to avoid big campsites. I like places like this that are remote, they're primitive, and I don't have to pay for it. So when I'm doing stuff like this, I just don't have problems, which goes along with one of the other questions I get a lot, and I want to address real quick because I think that'll come up in the comments, and is whether or not I carry a firearm. Now, I used to carry a firearm all of the time when I went camping, and on the motorcycle, it's a pain in the ass, to be honest. I think it's extra weight that I have on me. It's something I have to be consciously aware of all of the time. I have no place to lock it up if I go in somewhere that firearms are prohibited. And especially if you are carrying a firearm and you're going into a bar to drink, then don't do that. So it's very limiting. And honestly, in all of the years, I've never needed my firearm. There's only been one time where I drew my firearm, and that's because I thought I was going to get charged by a moose, and I had no intentions of shooting the moose. I was just going to shoot into the ground just because of the loud noise startling it. That's happened once in 30 plus years, so I don't see the value in that. That's just me personally. You do what you want to do, but I know I'm going to get those questions, so that's where I'm at. Now, really, the fear, again, it is your subconscious, your inner voice creating those scenarios. You just have to quiet your voice and go do it. Wild animals, I just haven't had any problems. I'm very careful with what I do with my food and where I put it, but bears, they don't like people typically unless they've been conditioned. And then other people, I don't have those problems. And I think it's not worth spending thought time on those issues. So Fear, just set that aside and just go do it. The best way to get over fear is experience. Get out and ride. Go get experience doing it over and over and over again and realize that those fears that you had were irrational. That's where I'm at on it. Step 2 to being successful and having confidence in solo adventure riding is being a good problem solver. There's just gonna be a lot of little things that come up, and the better you are at solving those problems and figuring out quick solutions, more confidence you're gonna have in going out and doing it, and the easier it'll be to get through issues. Now, I don't typically run into big issues. I run into smaller ones. You know, zippers in my tent break, the clips break, zippers on tank bags break, straps break, just a lot of little irritating things, but you have to have a solution in order to fix those. So if you're able to come up with creative solutions for problems, maybe you've bent your luggage rack, or maybe a bolt just came out of your luggage rack, or maybe you need to zip tie something together. Just being creative and problem solving will make it much easier going out and doing solo adventure riding. So I really think that's number 2 on the skill set or the steps in order to be able to do it successfully. The next skill or step to successful solo adventure motorcycle riding is risk mitigation. I cannot emphasize that enough. When you are by yourself, there is no backup plan, and you really need to reconsider the conditions of the trail, maybe the weather, things that are happening, and constantly be determining whether or not it is the right thing to continue or maybe find alternative routes. And sometimes that means that you turn around. Not all trails are worth tackling, especially by yourself. And I've got a quick example of that right now.
All right, here's a good example of, I have no need to go up this. I could do it, but it's not getting me anywhere I want to go. And this has just recently been plowed. It is super soft, loose, very little traction. So I'm gonna turn around here. This isn't a great place to turn around. There's not a lot of good choices here, but I'm gonna have to do it just because this is what I have available. We'll see how this goes.
It just really comes down to your skills, your riding skills, and your confidence in your riding skills. If you are a lower skilled rider, you can still enjoy doing solo riding, but you may have to turn around a little bit more. There's nothing wrong with that. Also, if you're riding very technical terrain, maybe it is a really steep descent, maybe you don't need to actually ride on it, feet on the pegs. You can walk your bike down through it, sitting on it, using the brakes, using compression braking, maybe shutting the engine off, using the clutch as a rear brake to get you through some of those technical sections. Nobody's there to watch you. Nobody cares what you can and can't ride. It is doing what you can to keep yourself safe and to ensure you can ride tomorrow. Again, there is nothing wrong with turning around and finding an alternate route. It's all about keeping yourself safe, being able to ride for tomorrow. All right, step 4 is being prepared when you go out on your trip. And I have done a whole video on self-recovery, which is basically being prepared. I'll leave a link to that in the description, but I'm gonna make 3 key points that I think are critical to having the ultimate preparedness for getting out. And the first one is gonna be, if you're gonna be riding dirt and doing adventure riding, put knobby tires on your motorcycle. Put the tire on your bike that is gonna give you the most traction. You do not care about longevity. What you care about is traction. So do that. I will continue to harp on that. Traction is number 1, especially if you're riding by yourself. You don't want to get into a situation where you have limited traction because you have put on the wrong tires. Just put knobbies on. You're gonna go through them fast, but that is the trade-off for riding by yourself. All right, the next thing in being prepared is carrying water, a lot of water. I recommend 3/4 of a gallon to a full gallon of water every single day being with you. Plus you're gonna need to drink when you're making all your stops. So whatever the amount of water you need for cooking is, double, maybe triple that, because you just don't know, and you need to be drinking throughout the day. So water is incredibly important. And that is one thing that I see people continually fail to do, is take enough water. The final thing that I'm gonna mention in this particular video in being prepared is I've got my rain jacket and windbreaker and colder weather jacket is being prepared for all weather conditions, especially if you're riding in the mountains. You need to be prepared for it to be really, really hot, and you need to be prepared for it to be really, really cold. So because you're riding by yourself, you are going to have to carry more gear than you would if you're riding with other people, and be prepared for more conditions. I carry everything I need to sleep in the 30s up to the 90s and be able to ride in the 30s up to over 100 degrees. I have that stuff with me all the time. If you're going to be doing it solo adventure riding, I really think that is a key to being prepared, is for all conditions: rain, snow, freezing temperatures, extreme heat. I'm on a bit of a soapbox for that because I have done all that and I have learned from my mistakes and knowing what to do right. Skill, or step number 5, is being a decisive decision maker. When you are riding in groups, it's not necessary to be that decision maker. And if you're like me, I'm a people pleaser. I just don't give my input into what's happening because honestly, it doesn't matter to me. I'll do whatever. I really want everyone to be happy with whatever we're doing, and I don't want to put any input because I'm completely content with whatever is decided. But when I ride by myself, I can't do that. I have to make decisions, and there's nobody else to help me make those. And I think that is a really important thing when you're adventure riding solo, is to be able to make decisions. And I have 2 kind of basic examples, but these are things that come up all of the time. The first one is when you're riding and you see a rainstorm coming and you can see that it's dropping rain, you have a series of decisions to make. 1, you can turn around and go the other way, maybe find another route so that you're not in the rain. 2, you can find shelter immediately and just wait the storm out. Maybe that means putting up your tent and calling out a day. Or 3, putting on your rain gear and heading into that storm and just seeing what happens. Or 4 is you do nothing and you just kind of head in that direction, and whatever comes and you deal with the consequences. And that number 4 thing may sound like a decision, but that's a decision through indecision. You couldn't make up your mind on what to do, so now you're going to suffer the consequences of whatever is next. If you're riding somewhere where the road base is a lot of clay, that's going to turn to a very slick mud, you're going to be in trouble. Or maybe that storm is creating flash floods or has hail in it. You're not prepared for it, so you're going to get yourself in a bad situation. And that might seem like a very basic and simple example, but yesterday while I was riding, I had that exact same thing happen. I was watching storms, rainstorms moving all over the place around me, and it was a matter of making decisions of, do I want to be on dirt roads with it raining or wait till they pass? The other example that I see all the time, and I used to be subject to this as well, is finding a place to camp. There is never the perfect place to camp. There is an adequate place to camp. So when it gets to be later afternoon, early evening, I used to just pass campsite after campsite after campsite because it didn't look exactly like I wanted or didn't have the features I wanted. And then I would be almost at dark and not have a campsite set up. So it is to that point where the decision making and being decisive, there is a place to camp like this here, I'm stopping, I'm done. I know I need to camp, there's a spot, there's no point in continuing. So those are just a couple of the examples that I have of being decisive about your decision making, and that there's a lot of other examples I could come up with, but the point being is there's nobody else there to help you make that decision. You have to make it immediately in some cases and live with that decision and make the best you can. But the indecisiveness is going to get you into trouble. I hope you found this useful, and if you follow these steps, it'll give you the confidence you need to get out and do some adventure motorcycle riding by yourself. Following those steps is really what I do every time, and again, I had to think about it a little bit on exactly how it is I go out about and do this thing of adventure riding, and those are really the key areas. So if you do solo adventure riding, let me know if you have any tips or if there's things that you do that are different from me. Leave that in the comments below for others that are trying to figure this out. I hope this helps. Remember, you can always make more money, but you cannot make more time. So don't wait to get out on your bike. just go do it. And now you know the steps that you need to take in order to do it solo. You don't need somebody to be with you to get out and ride your motorcycle. Thanks for watching. Get out, do some riding, ride safe, and I will see you out there. All right, when I say I will see you out there, this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Just stop by. You're always welcome to camp with me if you ever see me on the trail.
Yeah, I ran into this guy and he can't get rid of me, so I don't know. But he's pushing me out now. So.
It's all good. It's time to ride.
Fun.